following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, this is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and your host is Jack Degraw, and my co-host is Kipp Christianson, and the name of our show is Long Range Jumpers. How you doing today, Kipp?
I'm doing well, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing great. So we'll probably get into the sports news, which is the virus going on, and give me some of your feelings on that.
Well, there's a lot going on right now. What everybody's canceled something, right? I think that's out there now. And Major League Baseball's canceled spring training. We have now NHL suspended the season, NBA suspended the season. NASCAR is not allowing any crowd. PGA is not allowing any crowd. What am I missing? All Power 5 conferences have canceled the tournaments. NCAA tournament is not allowing a crowd, which I don't know what they're going to do once one player comes down with the virus, because then they pretty much have to cancel the tournament, I would think, because what are they going to do, pull out a tournament, the whole team, and just forfeit? So, yeah, there's a lot going on in sports right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would think they'll just cancel the basketball tournaments and hockey because, you have a lot of, players. It's a very physical sport, and players are hitting each other, and they're right on top of each other. And I don't even see how they can play.
I don't either, yeah. They're going to be sweating on each other. Yeah, it's the first case of one person on one team that has something. They're going to ask that whole team to pull out. It's a mess. And I don't know how they're going to do it. Yeah, I think all college sports will pretty much cease to exist for the rest of the next couple months. And I know the NFL I don't think they're bringing in any potential draftees right now. I think I just read that. So they're stopping all flying of anybody anywhere. So, yeah, and this is not good for, can you imagine the city of Tampa, or if you guys were hosting? What round were you guys? Were you guys the 64-32 game in Tampa?
Well, we had the opening round of the basketball next Thursday. I mean, I had tickets for a Thursday night, and forget that. I mean, the first thing I heard about it when up by you, they canceled the divisions. Well, not they didn't cancel it. They're not letting any fans in for the Division III championships.
Yeah, it's for the big Johnny Tommy game to go to, further along in the NCAAs. Yeah, they canceled that. Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine the impact right now that's going to happen to all the restaurants, the hotels, and everything surrounding these arenas and stadiums. I just can't imagine the windfall from this. I mean, this is massive. Yeah. I mean, there's not going to be one person at Hat Trick down in Tampa, that where they're normally just going to be packed to the rafters.
Yeah, I know they've sold a lot of tickets. And if I'm correct, Kipp, you played in China, right? Basketball?
I did. Yeah, I did. And I played all over the place in China. So, yeah, I don't remember playing in Wuhan, but I was actually, I've been watching this like probably everybody else has. So last night I was like, where exactly is Wuhan? And I didn't realize. I thought it was more mainland and, further north. It's pretty far south. Like, it's southwest of Shanghai a little bit, So that's a pretty warm climate. When I think of flu, I always think, hey, the north and Midwest, and everybody gets wiped out with the flu every year. So, yeah, this is a pretty interesting thing that's going on. But, yeah, I know I played throughout China and, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangdong, Jili, and I was based out of Urumqi and all those places, So, yeah, I've been throughout China, that's for sure. So, and not surprised that something like this would come out of there.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, I mean, how populated is it over there? I mean, you know firsthand because you've been there. We always hear in this country, how China, they're like living on each other. Could you expand out, just how populated it is and how many, millions of people there are?
I mean, I don't know the exact population, but all I can say is you've never seen anything like it. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember, my main city I lived in was Urumqi, and this is in the far northwest in the Xinjiang province. And when you say people are on top of each other, I mean, I think the city was around 3 million. And I swear the city's no more than a 2 miles by 2 miles. Like, it is just straight up on top of each other. You go into some of these people's places or see them, and there's 4 people living in, I maybe even being generous, but 600, 400 square feet, and there's 4 people living in it. And, yeah, so I can only imagine when an outbreak like this happens, how many people get infected instantly, because they really are on top of each other. I mean, you walk down the streets in Beijing or, some of these places, it's almost comical. Personal space is gone. They are on top of you, around you. I mean, it's even that way with the traffic. The cars, it's 3 lanes wide, but they go 5 cars. I mean, that's just the way it is. There's just people everywhere. So, yeah.
And I wonder, like, do they have the open air, like the food markets, and how are like the public restrooms and all? That probably had a lot to do with the spread of all this, all this virus.
Yeah, they have open food markets, open everything. A lot of it's on the street, and then a lot of the restaurants are open. Just they're open air restaurants. And then let's be honest, they don't have the plumbing system that we have and the gutter system. And so you get a lot of interesting smells over in China. It's pretty dirty at times. I mean, there's some areas that are really dirty. There's a lot of third world parts to China. So it's dogs running the street and just it's a different kind of lifestyle. So, it's scary that it's happening.
Well, how many months a year did you spend over there? Like, how many games you play in a season?
Oh, yeah, that I don't remember. I was there for a full season, and then I was there on a G League. It was the D League All-Star team where we did a tour over there, and that's. But I don't remember how many games. Like, you'd play in certain tournaments, like in late August, September, and those would be, I feel like there were 4 games in 4 days, kind of something like that. And then once the regular season starts, if I remember right, it was probably 2 games a week, one in Beijing, and then you fly back to your town. So I think it was kind of like EuroLeague. It's usually like 2 games a week.
Well, let's change the subject to something pleasant. You want to talk about the Packers?
Let's talk about the Packers and their limited ability to get a free agent this year. Let's talk about the Packers.
I've been a Packers fan since 1965. The first game I seen when the Packers beat the Browns 23-12. Jim Taylor had 96 yards. Horning had 104 yards. Jim Brown's last game as a Brown. But the thing that's frustrating to me, Kipp, I mean, they've had, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and they've had 2 Super Bowls in like 26 years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I totally agree with you. And I really didn't expect I was going to agree with you on this. I agree. It's almost a crying shame. Like, I feel like Mike McCarthy was there 8 years too long. And, I don't know. When Favre played, they went to 2 Super Bowls, lost one, right?
Yeah.
And the defense was always okay, never dominant. They kind of struggled sometimes. And then, they almost got there when they lost to the Giants. What was that, in 2007? Am I right? 2007, 2000?
Yeah, I remember. Well, I don't remember the year. It's too painful. They've had so many painful playoff losses. It's ridiculous.
Right. He threw that interception in overtime. It was 20 below, and it looked like half the team didn't even want to be on the field anymore because it was so cold, and they couldn't move the ball against the Giants. I mean, the Giants had a stud defense. But yeah, I mean, they were close there. But yeah, I just think the Rodgers years, most of them have just been wasted. I mean, with this, defense had just, what they averaged 20-some points in the playoffs, but they were giving up 30-some in their losses. I mean, they just had no defense, and they expect Aaron Rodgers to get them to a Super Bowl. So truthfully, I was ready for Mike McCarthy to be gone.
Well, I mean, Kipp, they had that loss to the 49ers when Terrell Owens made the catch in the end zone. Then they had the loss against the Eagles. It was like 2nd and 30, and they lost that game.
Fourth and 22.
Yeah.
Remember that? Yep.
And then the Seattle game, they blew that.
3 turnovers.
And how about the Arizona game?
And they got 3 turnovers in the red zone. They got 9 points. Remember that game? And then that Seattle game still haunts us all. Yeah.
Because the thing I remember, Seattle had a 2nd and 30, and they were losing 16-0, and they got a first down, and then the field goal kicker buffed and he threw a touchdown pass. I said, that's it, it's over.
Yeah, and then and people forget Crosby had he had to hit a field goal like a 50-yarder just to send it to overtime.
Yeah,
in that game, it was a total tidal wave. Then remember Bostic. He wasn't even supposed to be trying to get the onside kick. He was supposed to be blocking, and Jordy Nelson sitting there with his hands waiting to catch the ball. All he has to do is catch it, and the game's over. And they get the onside, and they go down. Oh man, yeah. And Richard Sherman was playing with one arm, couldn't even lift his arm, and we weren't even throwing the ball at him. I mean, yeah. We kept running Lacey up the middle, and it was going for like 1 yard punt. And there's a guy out there that shouldn't be on the field, and we're not even going at him. So, yeah, I was ready. That was.
Yeah, well, that loss was on McCarthy. That was on McCarthy. He wasn't aggressive. He didn't play to win. No,
and remember Rodgers after the game kind of came out and said that. It was like, yeah, there was some questionable play calling. It was a little too conservative for my taste. Like, yeah, you think? I mean, they couldn't stop us on the pass. So, yeah.
And then wasn't it the Arizona game? The 51-45 game?
Yeah, but that one took a couple Hail Marys to Jeff Janis just to get that game extended. So, yeah. But you know what? We have a defense now. At least the defense is getting better. You know, this year was a lot better. But I think Rodgers' skills are deteriorating. I think, honestly, in the next year, they need to start looking for a new quarterback, at least to, sit behind Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, I mean, granted, down here we don't get a lot of Packer games here in Florida, but just looking at what I've seen, his stats has went down. I mean, he still plays good football, but it's not like he can win games by himself anymore.
Right, and he doesn't have the thing is he's kind of how Brady's kind of become. Brady just, if he doesn't like what he sees, he just throws it away. Like Aaron Rodgers never forces it into spots that he doesn't think he can get the ball into. Like Brett Favre, he's throwing it no matter what. He's going to try to throw it through someone. And that was kind of the fun of him. But like Rodgers won't. Like, what did Rodgers have this year? How many? Just a couple interceptions. Do you have like 3? I mean, something ridiculously low.
Yeah, he didn't have too many.
But he didn't have many receivers that were open. I mean, I went to what did I go to 7 games this year? Yeah, I mean, you just, you're watching, the receivers just can't get any separation. So, you don't, and you'd only throw it to Devontae Adams. So, but, I think if they get a linebacker, an inside linebacker that can drop into coverage as well, maybe a couple more studs on the D-line, and a couple wide receivers or, somebody that can make a play outside of Devontae Adams, they should be in a good spot for next year, although their schedule is tough. But, every year is different in the NFL. Some teams you think are going to be great or terrible, and some teams that you think are going to be terrible or great. So I think they're in the running. I think that defense is solid.
Tell me what it's like, to be in Lambeau Field, because, I mean, I've heard about it forever. I've seen millions of games there, but I've never actually been there. So give me an idea what it's like to be able to go see the Packers at Lambeau Field.
Jack, I can't believe you've never been there. I mean,
no.
It is I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like the mecca of football. It's so different than the other, stadiums you'll go into, NFL game, I don't the tradition, the people. It's interesting. I mean, the first time I ever went was in mid-'80s. Lynn Dickey was the quarterback at that time. In fact, I think it was his last game ever. I think he got cut after the game. And at that time, Lambeau Field was literally in the middle of a neighborhood, right? I mean, it's little bungalow houses surrounding the whole stadium. And at that time, it was like a tin shed, like fence around Lambeau. And then now, most of those little houses still remain. So it's still in the middle of the neighborhood. But now, Lambeau Field is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's brick throughout. What the stadium looked like 30 years ago, it does not look like now. And the people are great. The atmosphere is great. The tailgating is great. It's an experience I think everybody, I think everybody should experience at least one time. Come to Lambeau Field because it's amazing. I'm trying to think of another, arena or place to go that would probably be equivalent. I would say Wrigley. There's a certain thing to Wrigley.
The only thing I can compare it to, Kipp, was going to Yankee Stadium. I mean, the real Yankee Stadium, even before they remodeled it. I remember going 1964 to Old Timers Day to Yankee Stadium. And I went to the old stadium like 40 or 50 times, and it was incredible just to be there. Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Mickey Mantle. It was awesome. It was something, I'll never forget. And now you see what it is now. It's not even anything like it used to be.
Have you ever been to Fenway?
No, I've never been to Fenway.
That's one I want to go. I've never been to Fenway either. I'd love to go to Fenway. I just think that would be amazing. I would guess it'd be similar to that. The people of Green Bay are just so hospitable to the opposing fans. As long as you're just not a jerk. But it's really just a really fun environment, and it's just something to behold. Let's see, even at Lambeau Field. I went a couple of years ago when the LSU Tigers played the Wisconsin Badgers, and you talk to the LSU fans, they just couldn't. It exceeded all their expectations of how gorgeous the stadium is, Lambeau Field, and just how cool the environment is of Lambeau Field. It's just a special place. I don't know how else to describe it. It's a small town. I mean, Green Bay's not very big, and it's just, you roll up, you think you're in the middle of a neighborhood, a Home Depot and, a Cabela's, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a stadium right in front of you. It's just an interesting place.
Do you own any stocks in the team?
No, I do not. No, but I have plenty of friends that have their one share of stock. I don't know when the last time the Packers opened it up for like a stock buy, which I think is just to do improvements in the stadium, if I remember right. But yeah, so they send you the certificate. I did say the next time they do it, I will buy one. Just, it's art is the way I'd look at it. I'd just frame it and put it up on my wall.
Now, did they have the museum like with Lombardi and Jim Taylor and Bart Starr and all that? Or?
Yep, they have all that. The biggest NFL pro shop you'd ever see are Packer Pro Shop, where there's helmets from Swarovski's crystals, and there's a truck in there, Green Bay Packer truck. But you like right outside, the stadium, you have Curly Lambeau, Lombardi, like statues that are, I don't know how big they are. They're enormous. I'm still waiting for the Brett Favre one to be put in. It's quite the experience. Yeah, it's gorgeous, and they do tours constantly. I think every day they do tours except for maybe day of game, and they might even do that early morning before a game too. So, yeah, it's quite the spectacle.
No, see, I remember the glory years, when they beat the Browns and then they beat the Cowboys and then you had the Ice Bowl and the first two Super Bowls. So, and, then they had a lot of lean years. They made the playoffs in 71 when they had Brockington and the Scott Hunter, and then it got bad for a while.
It did. It got bad until what? I always say it was bad until the Magic Man. Don Makowski, he kind of started bringing them back a little bit, and that was just getting back to like 500 teams. I mean, was it maybe 1 year they went with Lynn Dickey to the playoffs? Like, well, lean.
Lynn Dickey, actually, they had a good offense. They had Lofton, they had Jefferson, they had Dickey, and they had Kaufman.
Yep.
And they finished 8-8 a couple times.
Yeah.
But the only year they made the playoffs is when they had the strike season. And they had no defense back then. It was rough.
Yeah. And then we saw light, we kind of saw some light when Makowski was kind of bringing the team back and doing some fun things. Then he gets injured and Favre steps in, and then from there on, it was just awesome. And that's really when I started really getting into the Packers was that Makowski time, because, where I live in Wisconsin, they don't show Packer games. They only show, because I'm in the Minneapolis-St. Paul network or, the area. So I only grew up seeing Vikings games. So, I had to watch, this team play in a dome every week, and I'm like, that's not football. I want to watch a team that plays outside, So I was ecstatic to be a Packers fan, to be honest with you. And then, with cable and all that, you could start seeing the games more often in the area I live in.
How about growing up? Did you follow any NBA teams?
Well, growing up, I was a big basketball fan. But, all I remember ever watching was Celtics-Lakers. I think that was the only thing they ever showed on TV when I was a kid. And then when obviously the Bulls were good, by that time I was already in, high school, college. Suns, I remember a lot of Sixers games. Those Sixers teams were fantastic. And I was always a Bucks fan, when it was Terry Cummings, Paul McKeskey, who I ended up being really good friends with, Sidney Moncrief, Craig Hodges, Paul Pressey, Ricky Pierce, Jack Sikma, Randy Brewer. Yeah, they were, you think about it, that's a pretty good squad. Alvin Robertson,
yeah.
I think he was there as well. And Don Nelson was the coach. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I was a Bucks fan, but they could never get past Boston in the playoffs, and then so Boston would cream them, and then Boston would face the Lakers. It seemed like every year, except for that one year when Houston got in with Sampson and Olajuwon.
Yeah, because the year Houston got in, the Lakers had won the year before. And I think Houston beat the Lakers 2 out of 3, and they changed the playoff format because of that.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, because they had the Twin Towers, the Rockets, and the Lakers had won the championship with Magic the first year, and I believe the second year they got knocked out in 3 games, and that's why you don't see 2 out of 3 anymore.
Oh yeah. I believe it. Cause if I remember, didn't that series end with Ralph Sampson just kind of hitting some little flip shot at the buzzer? And that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I grew up. I remember Chamberlain and Bill Russell and Willis Reed and the Knicks when they used to be good. But the interesting thing is, back then, the NBA playoff games were showed on tape delay at 11:30 at night.
Oh wow. Was there even a crowd? Were people even attend NBA games back then?
Well, the thing is, the Knicks always used to sell out. When they had the great teams, they had the 19,500, and they still sell out even though they suck, but that's another story. But the interesting thing, if you wanted to watch an NBA game, they would have it on tape delay. And it would come on 11:30 at night, and it was ridiculous. that, and they had a Sunday afternoon game, but they were never in prime time.
How things have changed. It's crazy to think, And when did that start changing? Did that start changing with Magic Bird?
Yeah, that's when it changed with Magic and Bird, because I remember when Lou Alcindor was in college and Pete Maravich, they used to have the Mizlou College Network, and they would advertise a game. In 2 weeks, you'll see Pete Maravich and LSU Tigers against Dan Issel and the Kentucky Wildcats, and you used to look forward to those games. Now they got 50 games on a week, so everything's really changed.
Yeah, well, I think the college games changed a lot too, and not for the better, in my opinion. You know, back then you used to have guys that played 4 years together, and they were fantastic together. Those Kentucky teams were loaded back in the day. You know, all those, like North Carolina teams, top to bottom, they were loaded. You know, unfortunately the game's kind of changed, and the product's not as good as it used to be. You know, but I think the NBA is getting better, though. I really do. I think the NBA in the last few years, I think, it's gotten better. I think there was a lull there for a few years. You know, 'cause it went on a nice run with Magic Bird, and then Isaiah and the Detroit Pistons, and then the Pistons and the Bulls kind of carried it for a while. And then you had the Lakers come back when you had Kobe and all that stuff. You know, it's been a nice run of the NBA. Then I just feel like the last few, you know, I don't know, kind of that Cavs, LeBron, Miami Heat. I don't know. I just felt like there was a little lull in the game for a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I like the way the game's going again.
Well, I think with the NBA game, when you get to the semifinals and the finals, the game is really good. But there's there's only a couple dominant teams in the NBA. So, I mean, when the basketball is played at its best, it's great to watch. But, I mean, for most of the season, you got a lot of bad teams, and it's really not a good product because all they do is shoot threes and run and jump and don't make any shots. I mean, it gets ridiculous.
Well, bad teams also, a lot of teams just not playing hard defense. They're playing defense, but, you know, when that playoff happens, you know, playoff time comes, those teams are playing real defense. And that's why to me, it's so fun to watch the NBA Finals. I mean, it's just, they're all out all the time playing the toughest defense they can. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, what's your opinion on this year? Who do you think can even, like, if they start the season again, who do you even think can win? Because I think there could be like 4 or 5 teams that could still win it this year.
You know, you're not going to believe, I don't really follow it like I used to. I mean, I used to be a crazy basketball fan, and now, I mean, I don't even know. I looked the other day. I didn't even know that the Warriors have one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Oh, they're terrible. Yeah, they're kind of tanking. Yeah, well, because Klay Thompson, he's been out, and then Steph Curry's been out most of the season, and well, there's your 2 best players. Plus, they lost Durant to New Jersey. So they have Draymond Green trying to be the best player on that team. Good luck, you know. And then they got rid of D'Angelo Russell for Wiggins, which is a really good trade for them, in my opinion. But, you know, yeah, they're just not a very talented team. Draymond Green and a bunch of role players, which he's really just a role player himself.
Yeah, let's talk a little about college basketball. I mean, I remember growing up, I mean, the games were a little more fast-paced. You know, the games would be in the 80s and the low 90s. Now it just seems like all the games are in the, you know, the high 50s, low 60s. I mean, you have any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, I think some of the defensive schemes are better, but I also think offensively the players aren't very gifted. I would say, you know, the good ones have kind of already gone to the NBA. You know, they're not 4 years playing all together. They know what everybody's going to do, know everybody's limitations, things like that. But also, I feel like the shooting was better back then. Their skills were better, finishing with left and right and, you know, driving. They were better offensive players back then. Now they're very limited in what they can do. They can do one thing or they can't do another. You know, I think that definitely hurt. I think there's a variety of things, but I think the defense is a little bit better, and offensively, everybody's a little bit worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I go up here and I watch a lot of the USF, the men and the women, and the women play an excellent game of basketball. But just watching the men's game, it's like you don't see anybody like shoot a 15-footer or a pull-up jumper. It's all three-point plays, and they go to the hoop, and you know, they have no idea what they're doing when they get there, and it just seems like the play of the big men. You don't have a big man now who can post up. You know, like get a ball and take a dribble and shoot a fall-away jumper. It's something you hardly ever see anymore. It's really taken a lot out of the game. You know, the big man used to be able to do that. You had a double team him and pass it. You just don't have that anymore.
I mean, the mid-range game is gone. The back-to-the-basket player is gone as well. It's frustrating because, you know, even coaching at the high school level, I watch these kids and, like, you know, this kid's 6'6", 6'7", he's 230, you know. He should be a back-to-the-basket player, just gobbling up rebounds and whatever. these coaches will have them playing outside at 20 feet and setting back cuts and doing this. I'm like, that's not his. He's not built for that game. All they want to do is spread it out. Everybody sit around the 3-point line. If you even see, even in the NBA though, today I saw a shot chart. It showed shot chart from the 90s versus 2000 and 2010, and from the 90s to 2000s, it was very similar. Like you had mid range, you had threes, and you had a lot of stuff in the paint. Right now, they showed from like 2019 or 2020 what the shot chart is, and it's almost exclusively 3-pointers or something that would be basically equivalent of a layup or dunk. That's it. There's no mid-range. There's very few just even deep paint shots. It's either layup or three. So truthfully, as a coach myself now, you know what I guard? I guard the 3-point line, and I make sure no one gets into the lane. That's it. Shoot mid-range all day long because you know what? They don't practice enough to make it.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems years ago everybody could shoot 12 or 15 footers. And like when they picked up on defense years ago, they usually didn't even pick their man up till he was like 25 feet from the hoop. Now the defenses are excellent. I mean, the athletes can run and jump and stuff, but the skill level's not there. And it just seems like, like you were saying, it's all one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's, they can. I mean, truthfully, as a coach myself, I want from a player? One that can play defense and one that can shoot. Because shooting's a lost art even. I mean, I don't even feel these kids are that good as shooters. Let alone making a three, they can't, or let alone making a mid range, they can't make threes either. So, yeah, I don't get it. But once you get to the NBA, those guys can all shoot.
Yeah. Now, it's amazing when I see even kids now, like they want to shoot. They think like 3 out of 10 from 3-point range is good, or 4 out of 10, and it sucks. It's terrible. I mean,
I agree, and I would. Okay, that's funny that you bring it up because in practice, I have a lot of shooting in my practice. Like these kids need to develop the skill. They clearly do not shoot enough. So I would seriously have practices where 90% of the practice is just shoot. And then, they come in, hey, coach, I made 4 out of 10. I was like, are you happy about that? Because that's terrible. And they're like, well, 40% is a really good, percentage from 3. I was like, yeah, in a game, it's okay. It's okay in a game. But when you're no one on you and you're in practice, you better be making 8 out of 10. Because once it gets games change. You're contested. You're going to be a little off balance. You might have to get it off a little quicker. So that obviously that percentage will drop. So if you think you're shooting 4 out of 10 in practice and that's good, wait until that's game time. You're probably now making 1 out of 10. So keep shooting, kids.
Yeah. Well, I think another thing, when I grew up playing, you didn't have the 3-point line. And we used to take the ball out at the foul line. So, you had to develop different skills. Now they take the ball out at the head of the key, 23, and they're guarding everybody out there, and they can't shoot. I mean, they don't know how to cut, to work off screens, to set picks. It just seems like, and it drives you nuts just to watch it.
No. They don't know how to use their bodies. They don't you don't have to be fast to get to the hole. You can just do a Luka Doncic, and you can just use your body and just manipulate yourself to the rim. I mean, they can't pull up. They're very limited in what they can do. They all want to be the elite athlete, like they watch in the NBA, like the Kobe Bryants that just can blow past people and dunk it. I'm like, yeah, that's why they're special, because no one else can do that. So you have to learn another way to get where you want to on the floor and create enough space to get your shot off. I'm sure we just sound like old people sound, but like Sports Center's ruined so many people's, idea of the game of basketball. Like that, it's not a bunch of highlights, people. You kind of have to be rough. You have to be, blue collar, and that's what wins games. It's, basics, fundamentals. That will get you to be a really good basketball player.
Well, now they talk about Steph Curry, and Steph is fantastic. The way he can shoot a ball is unbelievable. But I don't think a lot of people realize how many millions and millions of shots he had to take to do that. When he came out of college, there was big question mark how good of a pro he was going to be.
Right. And think about how many millions and millions of shots he got before he even got to the NBA because, his dad's Del Curry. What was his dad? A three-point specialist. So what do you think, Steph was brought up doing? Shooting the basketball at all times. So, Steph's special. He's just, I would say generational talent for his size and stature. It's impressive what he can do. But, millions of shots. Yeah, he was – the Minnesota Timberwolves took 2 point guards before they took Steph Curry. They took Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn, out of Syracuse. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I remember Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, and Steph Curry, was he out of Davidson, if I remember right? So he was a small school kid.
Yeah.
And
he didn't have a lot of offers to play college ball.
Not at all. But he lit it up in the NCAA tournament because he could shoot it from everywhere, which is obviously his talent. You watch videos of him, he can shoot from anywhere. Absolutely, it's amazing.
See, I remember his dad, Del Curry, used to just kill the Knicks. It was amazing.
When I was in Milwaukee, Del was there, so I got to play with Del for about 5 days before I got cut. But I just remember guarding him one day in practice, and the ball got to the corner because that was his shot. He loved that corner shot, and I remember right when he caught the ball, and I wasn't that far off of it. I just remember Coach going, too late. And he had the quickest release. That ball never came down below his shoulder, really. And he just flicked it, and that was it. Done. Three from the corner. Just too late. And I couldn't have been more than 5 feet from him at the time, So, yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Did you ever get a chance to actually play in an exhibition game with the Bucks?
No, I got to sit on the pine the whole time. I got to fly in the plane. I got to wear the warm-up jersey. I got to go through warm-ups, and that's about where it ended.
Well, how about the Summer League?
Oh, yeah, Summer League I always played. Yep. I did a couple of years of that. What did I do? I was with Dallas for a Summer League. I was with San Antonio the Summer League, and New York Knicks for a Summer League.
The Knicks? Now, did you play in Vegas? Las Vegas in the Summer League?
No, it wasn't Vegas back then. It was L.A. There was L.A. Summer League, then there was the Rocky Mountain Review in Utah, and that was the best one. And then there was a Boston one. So, yeah. And the funny thing is, my coach for Spurs was Coach Bud, who's obviously current coach for the Bucks. And then Charlie Parker was not just Charlie Parker. Dallas coach was Del Harris, Rolando Blackman, and Charlie Parker were our coaches for Summer League in Dallas. And then Knicks was it Tom Thibodeau, Brandon Malone? Is it Brandon Malone? Old-timer.
Yeah, I remember him.
His son's now the coach for the Nuggets. And then, Chaney? Lon Chaney? Is that what it was?
Don Chaney?
He was a Knicks player. Is that correct?
Yeah, Don Chaney was with the Celtics. He was a great defensive player.
Okay, that must have been it. Not Chaney from Temple. That legendary.
Yeah, I know who you mean. No, there was a Don Chaney. He played in the NBA with the Celtics.
Okay, and then that was the time when Jeff Van Gundy was the coach, and so he was actually always at practice himself as well, but he wasn't technically coaching us. It was very interesting guy.
Did you ever feel you actually had a really good shot to make a roster at that time, or?
I don't know. I was one of the last cut at Milwaukee, so I was close because you just never know what they want. That's the thing. I guess I thought I had a chance at Milwaukee for the simple fact that if you remember, it was George Karl's first year. And yeah, I knew George Karl doesn't like rookies, but he always kept like a guy like Steve Scheffler on his bench, right?
Yeah,
when he was
there forever.
Sonic. Right. So that's what I was going for. You know what? I'm just going to try to be like a Steve Scheffler. I'm just going to, hustle my butt off, be rugged, and, just be a good teammate. You know what I mean? Be that guy like, hey, I don't have to worry about him. The guy at the end of the bench, I don't have to worry about him. I don't have to worry about on the road. I don't have to worry about getting in trouble. He's just going to be the professional. So, you just never know. I think when I came back from China and I was playing really well, I think that time I was like, there's a possibility I could get into a camp next year and make one. But, things happen in life and that changed. So.
No, it's funny you mentioned that because I remember Phil Jackson wrote a book back in the 70s, mid to late 70s, and it was called Maverick. And one of the things Phil Jackson mentioned, this is before he became the great coach and everything, he said, there's probably a lot of tall white guys that could play in the NBA if they could be the 11th and 12th man and just saying the things you said, be a good teammate, be able to play a role and, stay out of trouble. I just remember him saying that like 40 some years ago.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, they know who their top 10 are, right? And the benches are 12 deep. So there's two spots that are really, they can go to anybody is the way I always looked at it. And the last thing they want is that over-talented numbskull that thinks he's better than everybody, but he's always mouthy, and he's like, that's the last thing they want on the team. You know what? They're probably going to go, hey, we want the professional. Let's just get that guy. If he can give us a few minutes, if things go down, if someone goes down, we're really thin, but he's never going to complain about his playing time either. He's happy to be there in a sense. So, that's kind of the role you kind of want to go for.
Now, after you got cut from these teams, did you go to the D League at that time or the Continental League or?
Both times I got cut by an NBA team, I went straight over to Europe because you just make a lot more money there.
Okay.
Like the D League, CBA, those. In CBA back then, I actually paid quite a decent amount. But I was still making a lot more in Europe. So, when I got cut by the Bucks, I went straight over to Turkey, which was, a high-paying, good league. And then when I got cut by Dallas, I went straight over to Lithuania and played. And, I had a really nice setup in Lithuania.
Now, how does that happen? Do you have an agent who sets it up for you or, in contact with teams? I'm interested about that.
Yeah, I had an agent I had an agent on all of them. The agent did not set me up with the Lithuania one. That was actually the Mavericks because the Dallas Mavericks cut me, but Marciulionis was the head of the Lithuanian league, and obviously Marciulionis played for Golden State and Don Nelson and all that stuff. So I actually went over to Lithuania, and the owner of the Lithuanian team I played for was called Klaipėda, and the owner was Jasong, and I believe he was the agent to Wang Zhuzhu, Maktir Batar, and he might have even been Yao Ming's agent. I'm not sure on that one, but he was the agent to all these Chinese guys now playing in the NBA. So it was a real interesting setup. And then there was another American coach there that was, loosely affiliated with the Mavericks. So basically I had my own coach there the whole time with me while I was playing there to develop.
Oh, okay.
So that was a different situation because, Dallas has always been about international talent. They've always kind of been, between them and the Spurs, they've always kind of been ahead of everybody else in finding really good international talent. But yeah, normally it was just like an agent. You get caught, off the agent's like, hey, here's the deal. I got this offer from Croatia, France, and, United Arab Emirates or Turkey. Where do you want to go? Kind of deal. So.
You know, it's interesting when these players come over from other countries, how skilled they are. You know, they know how to play the game. They know how to shoot the ball. I know up the street here, I go to the USF, the women's team, and they recruit from all over the world. They have very few players from, the USA, and I know the NBA. I mean, the guys they get from, Europe, they're all great shooters and they know how to play. I mean, it's a different game over there. They teach skills instead of like coaches over here. They want to play in the summer league and just win games. They don't want to develop players.
Yeah, America wants AAU athletes basically, and they don't ever teach them the proper skills. I agree 100%. I personally, if I was a USF coach, I would be going for a lot of European players. I mean, it's hard to get them off some of their professional teams and however they do it, but yeah, the practices over there, I mean, these kids are on a club, or they're affiliated with a team. So they go to school half the day, and then the other half, they're practicing. And and they have structured practices where, what they do all day? They just shoot. They shoot, and do dribbling and passing drills. And they're the best shooters in the world. I just think it's funny when I watch, the kids here and, the States shoot, like their technique's bad. Most of them are terrible shooters. But over there, they all can shoot. They can all just flat out stroke it from anywhere, So, yeah, I just think, America's definitely, they've caught up to us in basketball. Maybe not in athleticism, but definitely in the skill department. They're more skilled, more fundamental, better passers. They see the floor better, and they are far superior shooters.
Yeah, it just seems to be that way in all sports now. I mean, baseball and basketball, they just want to, in the summer league, the coaches want to win. They don't want to develop players. And instead of playing one game a week, they play – they play 5 or 6 games a week, and, the kids don't have any skill. They have talent, but once they lose their talent, they don't have any skills to go back on.
Right. Once they lose their athleticism, they're not so good anymore. So, and I don't know how you solve it. I really don't, because, this AAU thing, is, it's a craze out there. I mean, in the college coaches, they're looking for athletes for the most part. I just don't know what they do, how it's going to get better. Because these European, they're, and even, coming out of Asia, these kids are playing the game so young, and they're being coached the fundamentals. We're not coaching the fundamentals here like we should be, not like they used to.
Well, I mean, another thing I find, when everything's so organized, I don't believe kids nowadays even know how to organize a game. It just seems to be foreign to them.
Well, how often do you see a kid outside shooting? By himself? I don't see that. Everything's you have to do this, you have to do this. And you know what? I've always had a kind of a certain thing about philosophy on drills, basketball drills. I was like, you know what basketball drills make you really good at? Drills. They don't just, there's not a bunch of kids, playing shirts and skins in the park and, playing real defense and trying to get, just playing the game. I just think it's a lost thing. I just don't ever see kids just out in the park shooting anymore, or just in the driveway shooting until, sundown. It's different. So, because everything's, like you said, it's organized, it's, structured and in a way where it's almost more of a revenue generator, these AU games, and they just show up and they play, and I don't know. I'm just not a fan.
No, I remember going to the park. You'd play 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, and we'd play 21 baskets, and you'd play 3 out of 5 games or 4 out of 7 games. And if you had 4 people there, the first 2 guys that make the shots are a team, and you just keep playing and playing and playing. That's how you learn how to play.
Right. Yeah, and it's fun and it's competitive and it's different. And, they just don't do it that way. They don't do it that way.
Kipp, you want to promote your high school team in the year they had?
It was a good year. We went 20-1. We had a good year. Actually, you know what? I'm actually proud of them because on something that they did. I've never seen it. I've played a million years and been involved in basketball since basically fourth grade. But the last game of the year, we were playing a team that wasn't very good. And this year, we were up. Every game this year, we were up double digits. We lost one game. And I think we won every game by double digits that we did win. I'd have to check. I think the most points the team scored on us was 49 for the year.
Yeah.
So, I'm proud of them. But they did something the last game, the second half, that I've never seen. They only allowed 1 point in an organized basketball game in the second half. And Greg's other
1 point?
1 point. The other team never scored one basket. They made one free throw in the whole second half. And here in Wisconsin, they have a mercy rule. If you get up 40 points, they get a running clock. And they're 16-minute halves, right? So, but we didn't get to the mercy rule until about 3-4 minutes left in the game. So basically for 12 minutes, 12, 13, 14 minutes, they only allowed 1 point. I've still never seen it. In fourth grade, you could see that it could happen. I've never seen it. They only gave up 1 point and a half. So I'm pretty proud of them because I was kind of putting very weird combinations of players together. I didn't just have starters in or anything like that. I didn't have all my best players out there on the floor, beating down on this other team. That I wasn't going to do that, So everybody's playing, and I had 13 players on my team. So, that's a lot of players to get into a game. So it was just this mixture of players. And, they all played as hard as they possibly could. They played until the final buzzer, which is all I ever asked. Just play the hardest you possibly can. And that's what they did. Only allowed 1 point. Never seen it to this day.
And did you play like a regular game? You come up and down the court. You didn't hold the ball. You just, played as you normally would. Right?
Yeah, just normal. And no zones or anything like that. We just played man-to-man defense. Picked them up at the 3-point line. Weren't picking them full court or anything like that. No, yeah. Just pick them up the 3-point line and said, hey, all right, buckle down, play as hard as you can. We're not holding the ball. There's no reason for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you're on offense.
The old Dean
offense.
Smith.
Yeah. We're just, we're not. I'm not requiring 10 passes before you shoot or anything like that. I was like, all right, just run an offense, and when you get a good shot, shoot it. So, yeah. It's pretty cool. I've never seen that.
Yeah, that's a great achievement. Well, we went through football, basketball. You want to hit a little baseball?
Let's do it. I got some theories.
Well, okay. Now I'll throw the needle in. I'm a Yankee fan. I believe they beat your team, the Twins, 13 times in the playoffs. I could be wrong though, Kipp. You got to wreck me there.
No, I think you're 100% correct. Yes. But here's my thing. The Yankees don't need to change, right? You guys have money and you can spend money and you get great players and whatever. You're always active in free agency. But the Twins try to be the Yankees, but they'll never be the Yankees. They try to spend money, but they can't spend enough money because they just couldn't do it in a small market. So I just think it's hilarious that the Twins never change anything up. So, I got some things about baseball. I really don't like how the Dodgers and the Red Sox and the Yankees spend so much money. I just think it's a little bit unfair. But if you're the other teams, you kind of have to change this. So my theory, tell me what you think about it, is if you're the Minnesota Twins, I wouldn't spend any money on starting pitching. All right? Here's what I do. I would get all the top mid-relievers in the game and spend all my money on that. And then basically everybody so you get what do they keep? Baseball team keeps a roster of 12 pitchers?
Yeah, well, they're going to add 13 this year because if they have a season, they'll have the 26th man this year.
Okay, so if you have 13 pitchers, imagine you get 13 of the best mid-relievers and closers out there. And then they can all pitch on basically zero rest, right? They can almost go day to day because they pitch one inning. So why won't the Twins just get all pitchers like that? So then every inning is basically a new pitcher coming in. And then every third day they would have a day off if everybody does what they're supposed to do, in theory. Wouldn't that be more difficult? Plus, a hitter would never see the same pitcher more than once. I don't know.
Well,
am I crazy for thinking like this?
No, because if you look at it now, the starting pitcher is looked on to maybe go 5 innings nowadays.
Right.
And
you have to pay him how much?
I know. And, another thing, starting pitching is so hard to develop now. You have to have 3 or 4 pitches. If you have a reliever, he can have 2 pitches.
Yeah.
And you don't have to develop them. They throw 2 pitches. They can all throw almost 100 miles an hour, righties, lefties, and you face the order one time. I think eventually it's going to come to that. Instead of giving a guy $324 million, you can build a staff with a couple $100 million maybe.
Yeah, and there's security in it. So if one player goes down, you're not totally screwed. You know what I mean? What's the guy that you just got? Was it out of Pittsburgh? The big signing, was it Garrett or whatever his name is?
Garrett Cole?
Yeah,
Cole.
Well, you paid him. Yeah, you're paying him $300 million. What if he goes down with a rotator cuff? You have so much money just wasted, but you could have 5 players for that are elite, mid relievers. I'd rather have that than the one really good starting pitcher. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nuts, but I just think you could just change up lefty, righty. You could have one guy that just throws mean change-ups. You could have just different changes in speed, eye levels. I just think it's a way a smaller market team could compete against a Red Sox and Yankees and not just get their doors blown off every time when they go to the playoffs. Because here's the deal. How did you get past the Twins? They only had 2 pitchers. You know what I mean? They had Yohan Santana and, we had Yohan Santana and Liriano the one year. Brad Rackey he's a great regular season pitcher, but he's going to get smoked in the playoffs. He doesn't have a strikeout pitch to save his life. And then you get into the bullpen, and that's really bad. I don't know. I just think that there has to be these small market teams have to figure out another way to really compete against the big boys, because you guys have infinite amount of money to spend, and you're really good.
Yeah, that's the thing, Kipp. I mean, the Yankees gave Cole all this money because they get tired of losing, missing the World Series by 1 game, by 2 games, by 5 games. But I think, even the Red Sox did it with Price and Sale and stuff. If you can win 1 World Series, I mean, look what the Yankees did with CeCe. CeCe had 5 great seasons. In the last 6 years of his career, he was, a 500 pitcher. I think with the big market teams, if they can win a series, it's worth every penny. But it's tough, like you say, with the small market teams, because the Twins actually do a great job just getting to the playoffs.
Right. And they have, I like their coaching staff. I like their GMs. I mean, they have I think their fans are great. They have a great following. I despise Joe Mauer and them, but they're gone. So I kind of like what they're doing. They just spent a lot of money on Donaldson, though. Was it Josh Donaldson?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I always think pitching wins you championships in baseball. That's just my opinion. So, I mean, do position players, how do you deem a position player worth $90 million?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm just being a Yankee fan. I mean, you look at all the great teams they had, from 2001 to even last year. And when you get in the playoffs, if you don't have the big star pitcher who can win that big game, it doesn't mean a damn thing.
Right. I mean, back in the day, you guys had Mariano Rivera. So you knew full well no one's even getting on base in the 9th inning. So you can just check that inning off. And then who was your starters at that time? Messina, Pettit, was it? Was it Pettit?
Yeah, Andy Pettit won 19 games in the postseason.
Who else?
Yeah.
That staff was ridiculous. And that's before CeCe Sabathia came and he was hot. I mean, wow. Yeah.
But the thing, Kipp, as good as Mariano was, and Mariano was fantastic. I mean, he gave up a big home run in '97, and he messed up a couple games against the Red Sox, and then the Arizona disaster in 2001. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, they were good hitting teams. The Red Sox knew how to hit against Mo because they didn't go after the pitches. They would let that slider, that sinker go past, and they'd wait for good pitches. And he'd give up some bleeders, some bloops, but even with the greatest reliever in the history of the game, he still didn't come through all the time, but most of the time he did.
Yeah, not many people caught it, caught the barrel of the bat on that ball, though. I mean, was it Luis Gonzalez in the Diamondbacks? I mean, that was a flare. That thing, was that a broken bat flare that ended up winning the game?
Yeah.
Well,
Tony Womack had a great at bat earlier in that inning. He got a double down the right field line that really, set that all up.
Okay. I don't really remember, but look at Arizona's pitching staff then. It was Schilling and the big unit.
Yeah.
That's two of the finest starting pitchers ever, on one team. So, the Yankees had their hands full with that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, painful memory for a Yankee fan.
It can't be that painful. We're at that many championships. I mean, the last one the Twins won was 91,
Kipp,
a long time ago.
See, when I first started liking baseball, I remember the 65 series when the Twins lost to the Dodgers.
Oh, I don't even know. Was that Killebrew? I mean, I don't even know who.
Yeah, Killebrew was with him. Tony Oliva, Bob Allison, Earl Batty, Jimmy Hall. But the funny thing is, Kovacs come back with 7 days rest, with 2 days rest, and he won Game 7. He didn't pitch Game 1 against the Twins because he was Jewish, and Don Drysdale started against the Twins, and Drysdale got lit up. And when Walter Alston come to take him out of the game, Drysdale said to Alston, he goes, "I bet you wish I was Jewish too." So.
Oh my God, I did not know that.
Yeah, well, they had a lot of hitters. I mean, I'm dating myself, but Tony Oliva was like one of the best hitters in the game, and Rod Carew in the late '60s, early '70s, the Twins couldn't get past the Orioles, because the Orioles had some great teams, but the Twins, they have a heck of a tradition.
Was that, I don't remember, the Orioles, was that Eddie Murray at that time?
No, that was like they had Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Don Buford, Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, Dave McNally, and they were like loaded. Mike Cuellar, Boog Powell, Paul Blair, the list was endless. They were dominant.
I can't believe you know all these players. I can't believe you still to this day remember all these players.
It's funny when you're younger, you care about it so much that I can talk about guys in the 50s, 60s, 70s like it was yesterday. And you ask me who plays nowadays, I have to think about it.
Yeah. I can remember a lot of the college basketball teams of the 80s, like the old Indiana teams, the Michigan teams, the Iowa teams, Louisville, Duke. I can remember all the players, Kansas. I can remember all those players, UNLV teams. Yeah, I guess I get it. I mean, that was my life at the time. I just loved college basketball in the 80s, Oh, yeah.
No, I remember when Houston beat UCLA at the Astrodome, 71-69, when the Big E hit a shot at the end, and that was like their first loss in I don't know how many games. But that's when Kareem was still Lou Alcindor, and later that year they played in I think the semis or the finals, and UCLA won by 32 with John Wood, and I remember those games like they were yesterday.
Did you say it was at the Astrodome or the Superdome?
Yeah. Yeah, they played a game at the Astrodome. I think it was the end of January, 60.
And that's the one they lost, right?
Yep, 71-69.
Was that the game? I feel like I remember watching. Is that where the crowd was literally 100 feet from the court? They weren't even really near the court.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. Yeah.
So, okay, Kipp. I think it's been about an hour or so. You want to cut it off now, or?
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we can cut it off, and we'll just talk more some other time.
And, if you want to do it next week sometime in a couple days, just let me know, and hopefully by then I'll remember the name of the network. So
we can keep it changing it every week. It doesn't matter.
Well, that's all right. As long as I remember to hit the start button.
Yeah, you'll be fine. I should have time next week. My daughter's coming up from spring break tomorrow, but I have no idea what's going to happen with that yet, with airlines and what's going on. So I think she'll be up, but I should have time.
Okay, Kipp. Well, if you got some time to kill next week, just let me know. And appreciate your time, and I hope anybody who's listening out there enjoyed the show, because I know I did. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.